So hello, everyone. This is Christina Kishimoto at Voice for Equity, and we have an exciting leader with us today, DeNelle West, who is just doing tremendous work at Gwinnett County Public Schools in Georgia. So welcome, DeNelle.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
It's great to have some time to talk to you. I know you are leading in tremendous ways at Gwinnett County, and you have a long history of contributing to public education and to our kids in this nation. As the Chief Learning Officer, there's a lot for you to share with other leaders throughout the nation. So let's jump right in. I'd love to learn first a little bit about Gwinnett County. Tell us a little
hmm
bit about it.
So, Gwinnett County Public Schools is the largest school district in the state of Georgia. We're just a little bit north of Atlanta. We have 142 schools. About 81 of those schools are elementary, 29 middle schools, 24 high schools, and seven what we would call special entity schools. So that would include some of our alternative programs, our online campus, in addition to special programs that are designed to serve students who may have special circumstances and may have left the public education system, but it's been our opportunity to kind of recover, continue to support those students. We also have one charter school here in Gwinnett. Um, and it's been really exciting to see how we've been able to partner with this charter school where they're a part of all of our leadership trainings, and they're aligned to our instructional initiatives. So that's just been a really exciting and unique partnership to kind of see how that works in this school system, where I've worked in a few school systems across the country. So it's been really interesting to see, like with just that one that we have here in a district our size, how they've really sort of been integrated into the model that we have here in Gwinnett.
That's fantastic. And so it's a very diverse community. It is a pretty large school district. I
hmm
was over in your district, just visiting with others,
hmm
actually from the U.S. Department of Education, and a whole group
hmm
that went out down there to learn about. I get to say down there because now I'm in the state of Washington, right? So got to
hmm
go down to Georgia and visit and just learn a little more about what's happening there and the work that you're leading. And
hmm
it's really exciting. I'd like
hmm
to dig in a little more because I saw you speaking and heard you speaking
hmm
on a STEM panel and a computer
hmm
science panel, and you were talking about the kind of vision you have and the way you've been leading in this space. So what's been happening in terms of computer science in Gwinnett County?
So, a few years back, the state of Georgia actually passed a bill that basically required school districts in the state of Georgia like they're sort of a phased out plan over a series of years, where the requirement was students would have access to at least one computer science course in high school. They would have access to a computer science exploratory course in middle school. And then it was strongly recommended at the elementary level that school districts consider offering a computer science course that way as well. So, although in Gwinnett, um, we didn't necessarily go the policy route or procedural route for what our implementation could potentially look like in our system. We really thought about like what is it that we want to see for each and every student to ensure that there's equity and access that's created for all. Like if you are familiar with sort of the band orchestra pathways in a school system, if students sometimes don't have access early on in elementary to learn an instrument and have some time to practice and really begin to perfect that at an early level, when they are ready to kind of enter into some competitive high school programs, if they didn't have that exposure in elementary school, there's a lot of work that has to happen in order to get them ready in high school. And we've sort of approached our computer science work very similarly. We've decided and took on, I think, is a relatively ambitious campaign in Gwinnett to ensure that we created equity and access for each and every student, opportunity and access for each and every student in the area of computer science and STEM, beginning with our elementary students. So we are close to 100% of our schools, and that in pre-K 12, offering computer science as a course or a special within their schedules. Um, we've even gone as far, like I shared, it's not necessarily mapped out in our policy and procedure, but in our blueprint for the future, which is our district strategic plan, we've called out a very specific key performance indicator that outlines by 2024, 100% of our elementary schools will have computer science in place. And I have to say, I think we're going to hit that target. And, I would be remiss if I didn't, actually name our director of artificial intelligence and computer science, who's been really spearheading this program. And she has a very, very small and mighty team. But, they've been doing some incredible work to get the resources in the hands of each of our teachers to develop sort of the teacher prep and training opportunities that helps really develop that capacity of our staff to kind of move, maybe shift a little bit outside of what would have been a traditional elementary certification realm and pursue a computer science endorsement that allows them to teach this course, feeling confident and competent based on the learning opportunities and skills that they've developed over time.
So DeNelle, you've shared a lot of exciting components of how you've been thinking about this. So I know you and I have talked about, in Hawaii, when I was leading there, we got a computer science K-12 policy passed. The policy front is one you do proactively, right, to initiate change, or you kind of back into it. And it sounds like you decided to go into the learning design first, put it into your strategic plan. And that must mean that you did not have policies that necessarily inhibit you from doing this work. And I think sometimes we forget that policies don't have to be developed first, that our policies tend to be, especially in the learning area, broad enough for us to innovate. Is that what you found, that you really didn't need to change policy to innovate?
Yes, and it's really kind of interesting because, particularly in a district our size, sometimes not, everyone is, may not be ready to jump on right away. And then you're also trying to balance that with several other sort of initiatives and priorities where, that sounds great. I don't know if that's necessarily the focus for our school. So we were really surprised to see, just by planting the seed, working really, really closely with our stakeholders in the development and design for this, we were able to generate so much buy-in just by saying and messaging this around, this is something that we'd like to see for all of our students to have access to. We really believe every student deserves access to a high quality and inclusive computer science education. And we believe that's going to be one of the biggest levers to kind of help make all of our kids more competitive with students who may have attended a school that really specializes in this work. So this is just really I'm not going to say raising the floor, but maybe expanding the floor for all of our students. So they're all going to have sort of this common foundation. It's not just reading, writing, math, science, social studies, but really when we're thinking about and envisioning what is the future world that our students will be living in, we know we are kind of experiencing that right now. We know what that feels like. So what can we do to make sure that they understand how to use the wealth of technology that's going to be at their fingertips in the future, and know how to use that responsibly, and also know how to use it to kind of expand their own career and professional opportunities.
No, I love how you're leading through this because we know today, and there's new research studies around this, that girls and students of color are not necessarily pursuing the STEM areas or computer science areas to the degree that we've put effort into it, because it's not infused into the whole environment, the learning environment where they're seeing
Mm-hmm.
it and feeling it and seeing that it's part of the world. Instead, it's the added class or it's an after school. And you're really talking about embedding it into the
Mm-hmm.
whole learning design and construct of Gwinnett County's public education system.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we learn more about the limitations and like boundaries that you need to put in place. So when you're trying to teach students about those ethical practices, particularly like if you're thinking about AI and just internet safety, all of those pieces, it's really critical for us to try to be as best we can, like just aware of what's all out there. And as a part of I guess the beauty, sometimes there's also challenges when you're developing everything in house, like on your own. But also the beauty of that is that you're able to look at what that student experience is like in time and make adjustments so that the next year we're making it just a little bit better. And our consumers and our best customers and our most loyal and critical folks who are going to give us feedback are our students, and we're hearing from them like what's working and what's not.
They will certainly let us know as adults how in touch we are with the reality of the world around them.
Hmm.
And we love that about them, right? We love
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
authenticity that they bring to learning. Now,
Hmm.
AI is something you've mentioned a couple of times.
Hmm.
We know that's a world that can be scary because we are all in learning mode right now
Right, right,
around
right.
the opportunities, around what this is, around the
Hmm.
scope. But the whole generative AI tool provides an opportunity to engage both students and the teachers very differently and to think about kind of embedding that differently in our learning design. Where
Hmm.
are you with kind of, playing in that space,
Hmm.
looking at, whether there are some things you want to jump into there? Would love to hear about that.
Hmm. So, I am proud to say Gwinnett County Public Schools is one of the K-12 leaders in this area. And this work started, before I became a part of the GCPS team, but I am certainly a proud partner in the work since I've rejoined GCPS. In Gwinnett, we do have a cluster that is dedicated and their focus, they have a sort of a theme focus. It's our second year cluster, when I use cluster, it really is like equating that to set of elementary and middle schools feeding into one high school. In each of those schools, they have an AI theme, an AI framework that they follow, and AI is sort of embedded in all that they do. We had a collective group of teachers, leaders. We've worked with national organizations to help develop a robust AI framework that's implemented in each of those schools within that cluster. And, one of the key messages that our AI team kind of developed to kind of help support a mental model for what this AI work would look like. It kind of starts with, future readiness is critical for every student. And it doesn't matter like what their career pathway or learning pathway might be post Gwinnett County Public Schools. We want to make sure that every single student is ready. And we use this sort of analogy, like all students must swim. They have to understand what AI is and can recognize it and see how it impacts the world. All students will snorkel. They are proficient users and can make informed decisions about the use of AI. And some students will scuba. Like they have the skill sets to develop and kind of navigate new and innovative technologies. Now, like I kind of talked about, like the specialized in a cluster within GCPS, we are also looking at the high school level to think about some of our special entity schools that have like a specific like CTE model, like that's what that school provides some of our more specialized CTE programs. We're also looking to expand some of that AI work into those schools in the upcoming years, because at those schools, they're almost like hubs where any student in the district has the opportunity, if they like, to be able to participate in those schools. And then we, like I shared, offline, is that like we are really digging into this as a system to think about how do we level set again? How do we expand our floor? Like what's going to be on our dance floor around this work to make sure that we are, some of it naturally kind of comes up in our computer science work that we're doing. But we want to make sure that we're really intentional how we design and talk about making sure every student is future ready. So, if you want to invite me or members of my team back for a follow-up conversation, we're hoping to have some things really mapped out and ready to share more publicly in the spring.
Well, I hope you're going to be at the One Women Lead conference so that we
Mhm.
can get you presenting these frameworks and the approach
Mhm.
you're taking, which is so exciting. But again, instead of talking about starting with policy,
Mhm.
which we've seen some districts start there and get caught up, right, with just not sure how they want to move with policy language.
Mhm.
You started out with the learning framework again. You started out with instruction and learning, and how students are going to experience these new areas,
Mhm.
regardless of the fact that this is an area that's going to keep changing and really embracing that innovation and learning space. What do you advise to those who may be stuck on the policy language?
Mhm.
And policy may need to change in some areas, but in
Mhm.
most
Right.
areas, our curriculum policies tend to be broad enough, right?
Mhm.
You did talk about things like safety, and all those things need to be considered.
Mhm.
But what do you say to them about kind of jumping into the innovation work first and the
Mhm.
instructional design?
I really think, just a part of this experience, certainly approaching different initiatives, like, starting, like, we have to, like, have really clear policy around this work first, and then that'll drive, like, the mindset shifts, like, sometimes that's sort of our thinking, like, that's going to create the mindset shifts that we need to make sure that we're able to move this work and implement at high levels. And I think where we've seen that, um, sort of like have starts and stops, like nationally in education, is around equity work, right? Like where we may start like with a very stringent policy, equity policy, and then we're hopeful in that process, like some of the mindset and practices are going to follow along with that, where that work requires like a shift in thinking first in order to see that really come to life in what you do every day. And I think with this, and what I think has been really really critical and like a learning experience, is that when you start with your customers, with the stakeholders, who are the ones who will like be the beneficiaries of the work that happens in this area, it really makes the work go faster. It makes the work more enjoyable, actually, because there is nothing like tinkering, right, with something. Like that's the child in us. We want, to pick some things up, move it around, play around with it a little bit before we decide what's really going to be the best way to make it work. And then when you get that final product, there's a level of pride and ownership that comes with that, that again makes the work be able to move at a more accelerated pace. And then instead of sometimes battling or having the discussions around, like, you need to do this, or I would like for you to try this, it really is around, what, I tried this. It didn't really work, so I want to think about, let's get together and come up with some ideas of how we might be able to do this better. And that's been the beauty of this. And even though it hasn't made its way into policy, not to say that might not somehow show up sometime in the future, it's been really amazing to kind of like watch this journey where you start with ideation and design thinking and you come up with this product and it turns into this cluster model. It starts with the high school and then filters back down to the middle and elementary schools, and just being able to build that buy-in and knowing that it takes time to get there. Um, so in terms of, I think you mentioned earlier about like, you have to have policies that actually allow for that innovation to happen. And, I think that that's always been something that's been really appreciated here in Gwinnett County Public Schools, is just the idea of managed performance and empowerment. And that really allows the folks who are closest to the work, who are having success, have that opportunity, that freedom, that space to kind of explore and ideate and innovate, which has really been sort of a hallmark of our organization for quite some time.
I love the performance empowerment approach.
Mm-hmm.
That's certainly how I've led through my districts, and it's something that every community is not necessarily comfortable with, depending on
Right.
what their kind of approach has been historically.
Mm-hmm.
But it's amazing to create that space to play, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
to innovate, to try it out. And policy is not a straight line.
Right.
Policy, you can actually jump in at any point, whether it's going in and starting out with language that's codified, or whether
Mm-hmm.
it's looking at what it looks like on an implemented design and determining whether the codified language needs to change. Because the fact is that Gwinnett County has broad policy language around instruction. And so
Mm-hmm.
you're basically redefining without changing language. You're saying
Mm-hmm.
it goes as far as innovating and
Right.
having space to play and to try
Mm-hmm.
it out. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what learning is about, right?
Right. Right.
And so what I love about the whole generative AI opportunity, or the whole AI opportunity, and
Mm-hmm.
thinking about AI enabled curriculum and where we're going with this, is that
Mm-hmm.
it does force us to go back into a little of this, let's innovate
Mm-hmm.
first and look at the opportunities this provides for our students. And our
Right.
students have equal power in the space as their teachers to be able to innovate. How
Mm-hmm.
exciting. These are
Yeah.
exciting times.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So as you think about where you are right now as a chief learning officer, what do you envision are the impacts you're going to have by
Mm-hmm.
really focusing on,
Mm-hmm.
STEM and computer science, and being willing to jump right into the generative AI space and explore that? What does this mean in terms of outcomes for students, for you, from your vision?
Yeah, so I really think what's really been incredible and inspiring about this type of learning experience is the thinking skills that's fostered in the process of learning in this way. Also, the opportunities, and I'm thinking about, like, if when you look at the like the workforce data or jobs of the future data, like these are all the skills that employers want their employees to have. So the opportunities to collaborate and work on like a common problem and bring some ideas to life, that process of testing, editing, retesting, and that cycle of improvement that students have the opportunity to engage in. The ability to answer questions, test theories, these are all lifelong skills that, regardless of whatever path our students choose to take, they are ready. And I think our job in terms of shifting the trajectory is to ensure that every student leaves not just ready to take that next high stakes test, because sometimes it feels like, we're just practicing and practicing for the next test, but really ready to change the world. And I think our efforts with computer science and our efforts in AI is really designed to prepare our children to change the world, because that's been their learning experience. That's what they know. That's all they know, right? And I think when every student has that opportunity, it just really sets us up for a better future.
DeNelle West, Thank you so much for joining us. You've given us a lot to think about, and thank you for being willing to kind of share what's happening at Gwinnett County. There's so much exciting work happening across the nation, and you are one of those leaders watched, and we thank you for spending some time with us today.
Okay, thank you. My pleasure.